Well, good evening. And here we are again in the bug room. And I don't know whether you can see this, but this is a stick insect. It's a black beauty stick insect. And if you look really closely, it's got pink wings. They're just stunningly beautiful creatures. Nature is amazing, isn't it? I've actually got two more behind, but they're mating, and I want to keep this PG, so I won't show you those. But there is some good news. Don't tell my wife Claire, but actually they've been laying eggs, and there's another 30 of them on the way in here. Some benefits to lockdown. These things are utterly amazing. They shed their skin as they grow. I've been growing them since they were tiny nymphs, about a centimetre long, and they shed their skin like a lot of these bugs and insects do, just like the scorpions, just like the cockroaches. This is the cockroach nursery just here. They also shed their exoskeleton as they grow. These in here are beetles, eggs, then grubs, then pupa, and then into beetles. I wonder which of these do you think is most like the resurrection? Shedding off the old skin, or a complete transformation from one kind of being to another? Well, neither image is sufficient by itself. That's not how images work. They're not supposed to be exact and fully comprehensive, but they are designed to make us think and to reflect. Certainly, you'd never guess that these baby nymphs as stick insects would grow into something as big and as beautiful as the one that, to be frank, I've lost. It's somewhere on me. Anyway, all the doors and windows are closed, so I'll find it later. And if you could see one of these grubs in here, you'd never imagine it would grow into a beautiful yellow and black sun beetle. What fascinates me about some of the resurrection appearances of Jesus is that he appears to his disciples, to people who've been following him around for years, and yet when he appears, some of them don't recognize him. When he shows up on the beach, some of them in the boat are kind of squinting a bit and going, "Is that Jesus?" And when he appears to Mary in the garden, she doesn't recognize him. And when he appears to the two disciples walking to the road to Emmaus, they don't recognize him either. They've been following him for a few years, and yet when he comes alongside them, the resurrected Jesus, they don't recognize him. Sometimes I wonder if that's because they had an idea about who Jesus was. Even when he described himself as the Messiah, they had a kind of Messiah shaped box in their head and they understood what that meant. But actually, when Jesus did rise from the dead, when he did do everything that he said he would do, well, those boxes were blown apart. They just weren't big enough for the reality of who God was in the risen Jesus. It's a bit like trying to keep God in a box or in a cage. Maybe it's a bit curious, a bit niche, a bit weird, if we're honest, to believe in God almost, to have any kind of relationship with God. It's a kind of thing that we keep to ourselves, keep tucked out of the way, maybe even under the bed or something like that. But actually, what the resurrection of Jesus shows us is that you can't do that with God. You can't keep him in a box or in a cage or put him in a chest and hide him away under the bed. Try it, and the box will just start shaking. God will burst out of it, just like he did out of the tomb. All of our categories and understandings of who God is and what he's able to do, they'll always be burst open by the truth and the reality and the life and the light of who he actually is. It's amazing in a time of lockdown for many of us when we're forced to stay at home to think about God as able to break out, to do things beyond our wildest imaginings, to turn our endings into new beginnings, and to do all of those kind of things. So, even in a time of lockdown, let's be open to how God is maybe stretching our understandings of ourselves, of Him, of the world, of what really matters. Let's allow God to come out of the box in this season as we celebrate Him coming out of the tomb. We can't contain God. He's wild and free. And yet, though he's wild and free, he invites us into relationship with him, appears to us in Jesus, so that we might understand something of his love and just how radical and transformatory that love is. Let God out of the box, and let's see what he wants to teach us, what he wants to reveal to us, what he wants us to know in our hearts, in our hearts and in our minds. God comes to us to give us things beyond our wildest imaginings. With God, just like these insects, there's always things to learn and to explore.